Welcome to our Walden Korea. Welcome to our Walden Korea lecture series in association with the International School of Philosophy in Asia, ISPA. We thank you all for coming wherever you all are for logging in from to attend the lecture series. So without getting too much of a lengthy introduction, I would like to briefly introduce you to our panelists before we formally start. My name is Catherine Yang, a Walden Korea Planning Committee member, along with my fellow staff member here, Lim Ju Guang, who has come to help me mediate these lecture series. We also have here a moderator, Alex Taekwang Lee, a professor of culture studies and the founding director at the Center for Technology and Humanities at Kyunghee University. He's a visiting professor at the University of Brighton, England, and Paris Nanterre University, France. He serves as an academic advisor for Gwangju Biennale in 2017 and as a program manager for the Venice Biennale of Architecture in 2021. With Dr. Žižek, he edited the third volume of The Idea of Communism, published in 2016. We will also like to welcome Professor Russell Superglia, Professor of Undergraduate Literature Studies at Seton Hall University, who also served as a driving force behind Žižek's visit back in Seton Hall. He will be transcribing the main points of our lecture series, which we very much appreciate. We also have here Soo-yeon Yang, a polymathic journalist, founder, psychoanalyst, culinary artist, jazz critic, and educator. She is currently our chairwoman of Walden Korea, an academic cultural nonprofit organization. And finally, last but not least, we would like to introduce Dr. Žižek, a renowned Slovenian philosopher, cultural theorist, and public intellectual with an extraordinary range, whose name doesn't need any excessive or flashy introduction. He is the international director of the Birkbeck Institute for the Humanities at the University of London, visiting professor at New York University, and a senior researcher at the University of Ljubljana's Department of Philosophy. Ooh, okay, so we would first like to introduce Soo-yeon Yang with her opening remarks, in which our lecture series today would be led by Slavoj Žižek, which we'll kick off with this lecture for around 40-50 minutes, and following up with a conversation between Professor Alex Taekwang Lee and Žižek. Thereafter, we will take questions from our audience, where you can see the Q&A chat button at the bottom of the bar of this webinar. And due to the time constraints, we're limited to two avenues through either text or chat. You can either type your question through text using the Q&A button, or if you'd like to speak to Dr. Žižek personally, please raise your hand so we can raise you as a panelist. So Dr. Soo-yeon Yang, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, so just continue. I'm gonna speak a little bit and then continue.
You start?
No,
What was next?
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's my sponsor here. So hello, I'm Soo-yeon Yang. I'm a representative of Walden Korea and U.S. representative of bereaved families of the victims of Jeju April 3rd incident. ISPA of Walden Korea lecture series is pleased to host Dr. Žižek lecture today. The special webinar was made possible by generous support of the Jeju April 3rd Foundation. Special thanks to Ko Hee-bum, chairman of Jeju April 3rd Foundation. So may I briefly explain why I was able to receive the support of the Jeju April 3rd Peace Foundation in Korea? The Jeju April 3rd incident refers to armed uprising by about 350 communist Koreans on April 3rd, 1948. And the following government crackdown and mass killings of civilians by Syngman Rhee regime, the Korean far right has named the incident 4.3, April 3, in order to emphasize the communist rebels. But the roots of the uprising are complex, and the essence of the matter is the brutal, sustained, disproportionate use of force on not only the rebels, but tens of thousands unarmed Jeju residents over the next several years, including the slaughter of over 3,000 women and over 800 children under the age of 10, all in the name of quelling communism. The U.S. military governed Korea from September 45, to the founding of the Republic of Korea on August 15, 1948, and therefore still retained operational control of South Korea's armed forces until withdrawal in June 1949. We have been reminded members of American high class, such as privileged white Americans, of their responsibility for the violent transgressions of the past. I lost my paternal grandfather and two uncles, my father's older brothers, to the latter. I'm one of the 130,000 believed family members of the over 30,000 victims who were killed. In March 1947, Jeju Island held the first anti-US protest with participation from 166 organizations, including schools and government office, unprecedented union of the government and the private sector. The response by the central government and US military and the Korean constabulary was brutal, progressively become more and more indiscriminate and resolved. As such, Jeju became a symbol of a revolution. And I think that is a better future that the people of Jeju dreamed of then is many ways connected to what Dr. Žižek has discussed over the years. Actual freedom for all that is fulfillment of a political, personal, and social freedom for all. So we are so happy to host Dr. Žižek's lecture today. And I've been avid reader of his since 1994, and The Sublime Object of Ideology was book that I changed my life. I was also I would also like to thank you, the Professor Alex Taekang Lee, who is a Walden Korea advisor who founded International School of Philosophy in Asia. Thanks also to everyone who came here. Thank you very much.
Okay, I begin.
Yeah.
Yes, Dr.
Thank you very much. I first, my great gratitude to all of you, especially, sorry, I don't mean this in any male chauvinist way, but to the two nice ladies. And I ask myself, young, are you sisters? But this is not the time. Sorry?
Sue.
Yeah, but this is not the time to begin. So let me go directly into the heart of the matter, which is what went wrong in the last decades. Because even most of the left, 30 years ago, they were what I ironically call Fukuyamaists, referring to Francis Fukuyama, believing that the order that we have now, liberal democratic capitalism, is not the best in an abstract sense, but realistically the best possible. So what is going on now? So-called, I don't celebrate it, European civilization, we all know, began with a poem, Homer's Iliad, which this poem opens with a line about rage, wrath. Here is the usual translation. Rage, goddess, think the rage of Peleus' son Achilles, murderous doomed that cost the Achaeans, Greeks, countless losses. But today, this rage, wrath, fury has taken a different form. In his interpretation of the fall of East European communism, Jürgen Habermas proved to be the ultimate left Fukuyamaist, silently accepting that, again, the existing liberal democratic order is the best one possible, and that while we should strive to make it more just, we should not challenge its basic premises. This is why Habermas welcomed precisely what many leftists saw as the big deficiency of the anti-communist protests in Eastern Europe 30 years ago. The fact that these protests were not motivated by any new vision of a post-communist future. As Habermas put it, the Central and Eastern European revolutions were just rectifying or catch up the German term is nachholende revolutions. Their aim being to enable those societies to gain what Western Europeans already possessed. It may look similar in some protests against Russian domination that go on today, even in Ukrainian war. Isn't Ukraine presenting itself as defending European civilization? However, the ongoing wave of rage, of protests in different parts of the world, they question this very phrase. The Gilets jaunes, yellow vests in France, Podemos protests in Spain, and other similar protests are not just catch-up movements. They embody the weird reversal that characterizes today's global situation. The old antagonism between ordinary people and financial capitalist elites is back with a vengeance, with ordinary people erupting in protest against the elites, who the elites are accused of being blind to their suffering and demands. However, what is new is that the populist right has proved to be much more adept in channeling these eruptions in its direction than the left. Here, then, is the paradox we have to confront. The populist disappointment at liberal democracy is the proof that 1990, the fall of communism, was not just a catch-up revolution, that it aimed at more than liberal capitalist normality. Freud spoke about Unbehagen in der Kultur, the discontent or unease in culture. Today, 30 years after the fall of the Berlin Wall, the ongoing new wave of protests bears witness to a kind of Unbehagen, unease in liberal capitalism itself. And the key question is, who will articulate this discontent? Will it be left to nationalist populists to exploit it? The dissatisfaction with the predominant social order expresses itself as paradoxically as a redoubled surplus enjoyment. Not just the surplus enjoyment or surplus value, which sets in motion the capitalist edifice, but a surplus over this surplus itself. The surplus excess, palpable in the obscenity of the populist discourse, which is full of racist and sexist enjoyment. We are learning the hard way that the attempt of European modernity to abolish traditional forms of authority and domination, father of the family, political master, and to install secular democracy more or less is failing. The dimension of the master is returning with a vengeance in all its forms. patriarchal values, political authoritarianism, religious fundamentalism, and so on. So what is going on? Recall the well-known answer. It's an old joke, but I think it's very profound. The well-known answer of the members of an Aboriginal tribe to a white explorer who visits them for the first time and asks them, are there still cannibals among you? Are you a cannibal tribe? The answer he gets is, no, we are not cannibals. Last week, we ate the last cannibal. What's the lesson of this joke? If a civilized, non-cannibal community is constituted by its members eating the last cannibal, that community could never be constituted if that last act of cannibalism is labeled as such, as a criminal act. So between so-called barbarism and the rule of law, civilization, we need a moment which should become invisible. A moment of, let's call it, sacred violence, when people or their leaders eat the last cannibal. You know where you can see this same paradox at work very clearly? In United States, in the passage from barbarism to modern legal order in the so-called Wild West, as we know it from Western films. This passage was accomplished through brutal crimes, through eating the last cannibals, and legends were invented to obfuscate these crimes. This is what John Ford, the biggest Western movie director, indicated in his famous line, when the legend becomes fact, print the legend. Legend becomes fact, not in the simple sense of factual truth, but in the sense that it becomes an immanent constituent of the actually existing order, so that rejecting it amounts to the disintegration of this order. But today, something strange and new is happening with the rise of contemporary practices like what our governments call enhanced interrogation techniques, which means torture, of course. Modern illegal state violence, or more generally, illegal or extra-legal practices supported and enabled by the legally existing apparatuses of power could be seen as acts repeating the illegal, mythic, prehistorical constitution of state power. The eating of the last cannibal is repeated again and again. And Julian Assange, I think, is something like our Antigone from Sophocles' play. He is, for a long time, kept in the position of a living dead, isolated in a solitary cell, with very limited contacts with his family and lawyers, with no conviction or even official accusation, just waiting for the extradition. Because he made public the obscene dark side of the United States policy. He didn't just inform the secret services of the opposite side. He was, as he characterized himself, a spy of and for the people. That's why a species of leaders is emerging now who take pride in committing this crime, the crime of eating the last cannibal, openly rather than secretly. as if it amounted to some kind of fundamental moral difference or difference of character. Namely, you know, all brutal dictators, or even not full dictators like Donald Trump, they claim, I have the courage, the guts to do it openly, to violate parts of the law. But what may appear to be their courageous transgression of state laws by avoiding the hypocrisy that those laws sometimes demand is nothing more than a direct identification with the obscene other side of state power itself. They, the new leaders, are openly transgressing their own laws. This is why, even when they are in power, these leaders continue to act as if they are in opposition, rebelling against the real power. You know, Trump always claimed the deep state is against me. An example. Are you aware what does it mean? Namely, what Trump now recently on the 3rd of December, what he said. He called for the termination of the American Constitution to overturn the 2020 election result and reinstate him to power. Here is a literal quote from Donald Trump. Do you throw the presidential election results of 2020 out and declare the rightful winner, or do you have a new election? A massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. So Trump is consciously undermining the very fundamentals of the existing legal order, including the Constitution. He openly says we have to eat the last cannibal again. Of course, Putin is doing many similar things. However, in Russia and some other states, something quite different and maybe even darker is happening simultaneously. They are bringing back one of the features of Stalinism. Stalinism also was continuing to eat the last cannibal. But under Stalinism, they mostly did not do it discreetly. They did it openly. Their legal system, which regulated constant political purges, literally millions disappeared. Their legal system regulated how we should permanently eating the last cannibal, those who are the threat to our system. And what happens now? It is again that Russia is elevating eating the last cannibal into a law. Something weird, very weird, happened now, 10 days ago, even less, on Wednesday, December 15th. The Russian Duma parliament adopted the first reading of a law saying that any criminal offenses committed in the occupied regions of Ukraine, I quote, will not be considered a crime punishable by law if they can be considered to have been in the interest of the Russian Federation. Okay, it's not clear how it would be decided whether a crime had served Russia's interests. You know that the Russian armed forces did quite a lot of crimes there. Torture, rape, murder, looting, vandalism. But again, are we aware what is going here? That the state is directly legalizing the violation of its own laws, if they serve, of legalization of crimes, if they serve patriotic interests. So what is going on here? I would like to begin with a linguistic distinction. It will be probably difficult to translate it even into English. I don't know about Korean, your language, if you have different words for it, but in French and some other languages, we have two words for the future. Futur, like future, and avenir, to come. Futur stands for the future as the continuation of the present, as the full actualization of tendencies which are already present. While avenir, to come, avenir points towards a more radical break, a discontinuity with the present. Avenir is what is to come, not just what will be. For example, in the contemporary apocalyptic situation, the ultimate horizon of the future is what our best theorist of catastrophes, I think, Jean-Pierre Dupuy, D-U-P-U-Y, he called this ultimate horizon the dystopian fixed point, the 0 point of ecological breakdown or nuclear war or global economic or social chaos. Even if it never arises, this 0 point is something like a virtual attractor towards which our reality left to itself tends. The way to combat the future catastrophe is through acts which interrupt this drifting towards the dystopian fixed point. Dupuy's thesis is here that please listen now carefully, it's a very profound theoretical one, that if we are to confront properly the threat of catastrophes, environmental, nuclear war, and so on, we need to break out of the usual notion of linear time, where the future is mostly determined by the past, but we have sometimes these four choices to make. Dupuy calls what the new time notion the time of a project, of a closed circuit between the past and the future. The future is causally produced by our acts in the past. That's true. While the way we act is determined by our anticipation on the future and our reactions to this anticipation. You see the very simple point. It's not just that what we do is produced by the past. At the same time, we have certain expectations of the future, and reacting to these expectations, we act the way we do. This then is how Dupuy proposes to confront the catastrophe. We should first perceive it as our fate, as unavoidable. So we should only then, afterwards, project ourselves into this catastrophe, adopting its standpoint, and then we should retroactively insert into our past counterfactual possibilities, in the sense of, oh my God, if we were to do that and that, the catastrophe we are in now would not have happened. Therein resides Dupuy's paradoxical formula. We have to accept that at the level of possibilities, the future is doomed. The catastrophe will take place. It is our destiny. And then, on the background of accepting this fact, we should mobilize ourselves to perform acts which will change destiny itself, which will insert new possibilities into the past. So this does not mean that we cannot change the future. It just means that in order to change our future, we should first change our past, not in a naive, magical way of changing what happened, but we should reinterpret the past in such a way that opens up towards a different future different from the one implied by the predominant vision of the past. Now, here the example would have been what you, Søren Young, mentioned, that early act of revolution in 1949, or when, yours. You should tear it out of its predominant reading. It was just a small communist rebellion directed by North Korea, whatever. And you should read it as something that is not yet dead, that still has a message to deliver to us, pointing towards a different future. Today, we should ask ourselves, will there be a new world war? The answer can only be a paradoxical one. If there will be a new war, it will be a necessary one. This is how history works. Again, a quote from Dupuy: if an outstanding event takes place, a catastrophe, for example, it could not have taken place. Nonetheless, insofar as it did not take place, it is not inevitable. It is thus, that's the formula, if you are philosophers, it is thus the event's actualization, the fact that it takes place, which retroactively creates its necessity. End of quote. With regard to the new global war, once the conflict will, if it will, let's hope not, will explode between United States and Iran, between China and Taiwan, between Russia and NATO, around Ukraine, it will appear necessary. That is to say, we will automatically read the past that led to it as a series of causes that necessarily brought out the explosion. If it will not happen, we will read it the way we today read the Cold War, as a series of dangerous moments where the catastrophe was avoided because both sides were aware of the deadly consequences of a global conflict. So again, I repeat my point. It's not enough to say we are in a certain situation and the possibilities are open. We can choose war, we can choose peace, or a third possibility. No, what we are confronting are not just different possibilities, but literally different futures. Dupuy uses here, he borrows from quantum mechanics, the term superposition of states. Today, we live in a superposition, political, of different states. If you look at our history, not just Ukrainian war, but our entire situation, all signs point towards a mega catastrophe. Ecology is our gradual suicide. There will be hunger because of global warming. Tens, hundreds of million people will have to move around. There is a clear prospect of nuclear catastrophe. So this is the fixed point towards which we are moving. It's more than just a possibility. If you look neutrally at our situation, this is our future. In this sense, necessary. But we, knowing this, we can act. We can act against it. So what to do in this confused situation? The first obvious answer is that why to have authorities which rule instead of us at all? Why shouldn't people themselves reign? But what do you mean by this? What do we mean by this? In today's populism, the dark, obscene side of the reference to the people also made itself palpable. The people to which populism refers, I think, doesn't exist. Populism is by definition a mask of power. It is a fantasized entity evoked by the new masters to justify their role as the servants of the people, enabling them to dismiss their opponents as the enemies of the people. Did you notice that all from the early modernity on, all leaders, since from modernity on, you cannot any longer rely unproblematically on some transcendent source of authority. I'm a king because God invested in me my authority, or because some higher destiny, my sacred origins legitimize it. So the logical solution is that leaders themselves, masters, proclaim themselves servants. Like Friedrich the Great, the famous German Prussian king, proclaimed himself the servant of state. And there are, of course, different modalities of this position of serving the servants. From technocracy, experts who say we just serve society, we don't have any interest, to religious fundamentalism, to a new figure, obscene masters, clowns, like Donald Trump. The obscene master is not a direct reaction to the failure of the traditional master. This figure is a reaction to the fact that expert knowledge, pure technocracy, cannot properly function. It has to be supplemented by the new figure of a master. Now, how should we react to this situation? The first, now I will try to be as short as possible. The first version is, it's the most tragic version for me, it's cynicism. It's that we reluctantly accept the need to return to some form of social authority, but we say, just act as if you accept it. Pretend that you accept it. Play the game. Don't accept it seriously. For example, Lacan's nephew and follower, Jacques Miller, preaches this view. He says, literally quoting, I don't think he's aware, Franz Kafka from his novel, The Trial. The law is not true, it's arbitrary. But it is necessary. So you know it's not true, but you have to accept it as necessary. You should just not, again, you should acquire a distance towards it. This cynical view, I think, fits perfectly today's society, where in our postmodern relativism, nobody really, I think that even religious fundamentalists, they don't really believe in their eternal values, blah, blah. They just cynically act as if they do. The next solution is, let's drop the figure of the master itself and opt for anarchism. I take this seriously. Anarchism is having a revival today, from Noam Chomsky to David Graeber. Anarchism is not against public power. Catherine Malabou, a very good Hegelian philosopher and another neo-anarchist, refers to Jacques Rancière, who asserts radical equality between citizens who are considered able to both command and obey. This is the basic premise of anarchism, which is also in some sense the basic premise of democracy. There are no people who are a priori legitimized by their expertise, authority whatsoever to rule. Every common person, okay, with some exceptions, if you are mentally ill, blah, blah, every human person is able of participating also in government. But in his reply to Catherine Malabou, Etienne Balibar goes to the crux of the problem. A quote, "The anarchist will say that we are able to imagine and realize in practice now an alternate social fabric because the whole society could one way or another emerge from forms of self-government and self-organization that can be experienced and experimented with at the level of cooperatives." And I finished the quote just on those who claim this usually refer to like Kurdish fighters in Rojava, Zapatistas in Chiapas, and so on. The problematic point is, can these local anarchist communities, can they be universalized into global power? Malabou herself points out two problems. First, anarchism is becoming today a key feature of global capitalism itself. A quote from Malabou again. Our current epoch is characterized by a coexistence between a de facto anarchism and a dawning or awakening anarchism. De facto anarchism is the reign of anarcho-capitalism, which is contemporaneous with the end of the welfare state, creating in citizens a feeling of abandonment. Just think of the state of hospitals and healthcare today. So, current capitalism is undertaking its anarchist turn, a generalized Uberization of life. Uber, she means these new companies, which are not even capitalists in the old sense. They just claim we mediate between what workers offer on the market, car owners, and their customers. But Malabou, as a good Hegelian, noticed also something else, that this anarcho-capitalism is the other side of a new authoritarianism. The last quote from her: "Authoritarianism does not contradict the disappearance of the state. It is its messenger. The mask of this so-called collaborative economy, which, by bringing professionals and users into direct contact through technological platforms, pulverizes all fixity." End of quote. What this means is that the rising authoritarianism is the other side of the disappearance of the state, more precisely of the most precious function of the state, that of providing public services. We thereby touch the vast domain of public services, healthcare, education, which cannot be provided through expanding cooperatives and other forms of local self-organization. As Etienne Balibar emphasizes, for average American workers, the problem is not too much state. The problem is not enough state. What we need today more than ever is what a German friend of mine, conservative philosopher, but very intelligent, Peter Sloterdijk, what he calls objective social democracy. Social democracy, which is not a political force, one among the parties, but a social democracy which is already part of the state apparatus embodied in it. For example, in a country like Nordic countries, up to a point, Germany, France, global healthcare, free education, and so on, they are not a matter of political choice. They are accepted as the basic constituent of social life. So whoever is in power through so-called free elections, he doesn't dare to touch this. Here, I will just add two things, maybe problematic to some of you. So the problem today is that we do live in a society of choice. But the problem is not that these choices are false choices. You know, the fundamental paradox of state authority. You are given a free choice on condition that you make the right choice. No, today, like when you use Uber or whatever, you are bombarded by or demanded to make massive choices, but without being qualified to make properly these choices. I will quote here, not a friend of mine, but he really hates it, severe critic, John Gray. But he was right when he wrote this, quote, "We have been thrown into a time in which everything is provisional. New technologies alter our lives daily. The traditions of the past cannot be retrieved. At the same time, we have little idea of what the future will bring. We are forced to live as if we were free." And to conclude, to provoke you, my solution is we cannot get rid of simply of the figure of the master. Why not? Because when you say not master but free individuals, but these free individuals who experience maybe even themselves as free. What is more free today than surf the web, you make all the choices you want? Their freedom is already regulated without you even being aware of it. And to become aware of how false your freedom is, you need a figure of a master, a leader. Let's be careful here. Not the traditional leader who pretends to know better than you what is good for you. No, we need new leaders whose simple message is you can. You are not caught into your determined circumstances. You have a fundamental choice. You can do it. Obama used this, yes, we can. Later, he disappointed us, we know. But this was an authentic moment. In his first electoral campaign, I think, Barack Obama, when his message was just, yes, we can. That's the leader. And that's also why my final philosophical point, we cannot simply renounce in certain situations, acting like masters, assuming authority when the situation condemns us to do it. I will not quote it again. I refer here to Hannah Arendt's beautiful short text on education, where she says, let's say you are now head of an impoverished family, your small children are totally confused, they don't know what is going on, what should they do, should we, and they ask their parents, father, mother, please give us some orientation. The literally truthful and honest thing would have been for father or mother or another authority, yeah, that's true. I forgot where it is taken, thanks Russell, to say, listen, we are confused as you, today's situation is chaotic, we don't know, you just have to find your way. No, although we are not justified to claim authority, we have heroically to assume it. We have to heroically act as if we have authority. You know, it's the same thing as, to conclude with a philosophical point, it's the same thing as, let's say, I am a cognitive scientist, and I'm not, but I follow the debates there. And many of them claim our human freedom is a user's illusion. Everything is already decided in advance at the level of neurobiological processes and so on. So let's say, sorry for this stupid example, let's say I see in a pool near my house a small girl slowly drowning. She cannot swim. And then the logical formulation would have been for me a consequence to say, I don't have freedom of my will, so why should I worry? Whatever I will do is predetermined. I shouldn't be held responsible. No, you are. Even if cognitively you know, but I don't believe this theory, that you don't have free will, you should act as if you have a free will. That's the paradox today. We need not leaders who know better than us. We need experts, but not as leaders. We need leaders who give us back our freedom, not the vulgar everyday freedom of, will I go to this movie theater or to another, but this basic freedom of changing the coordinates of our life. If we don't regain this freedom, then we are lost. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you. So can I get it? Now my turn? All right. Thank you very much.
Your turn, yes, your turn.
Yeah, it's
moderator right now.
a fantastic talk. I think you know, you brought together many points. You already actually developed, you know, what you talked in previous, you know, address and lectures.
Yeah, but but the middle part about Dupuy and so on.
Yeah. That is fantastic.
My previous books, but I think that is the new thing that I tried nonetheless to present.
Yeah.
You know,
actually, the more developed idea, in my opinion. So you already talked about the master, and then I think in this, you know, talk you developed, you know, much that the idea of the master. And you talked about taking the case of the April 3rd uprising in Jeju Island to, you know, make it that incident political is to reinvent or to invent the past, not, you know, the repeat. Or reiterate that, you know.
Sorry to interrupt. I know you know this, but for our readers, we have to emphasize this. It doesn't mean this was really just a modest event. We should now project into it retroactively. No, the event was in itself open. Future will decide what really happened there. If capitalism wins, it will really be just a minor distraction. If there will be a new emancipatory movement, the meaning of that event will change.
Exactly. Actually, that is I'm thinking about the history. You know, actually, I think your original interpretation of Hegel. You know, actually Hegel's the historicism, but you actually reject, you know, that kind of historicism, and you reread, you know, Hegel quite a radical way. I love your interpretation. And then, okay, just I know actually your the answer to this stupid question, but actually I wanna give this question, you know, as if I'm also stupid, but I'm a little bit clever.
You think you are not stupid, really, or not?
No, I'm really stupid, but as if I'm a little bit smart student, I want to give you this question. Okay,
no,
so
please,
we can.
Sorry to interrupt you. Stay calm. My theory is that there are only two types of the people on Earth. People who are complete idiots and people who are not complete idiots. And I hope that the two of us are at least in the second category.
I want to take a side of a complete idiot. I love that you know, the wisdom of a complete idiot. Anyway, my question is okay. Just I want to take this position. Complete idiot. All right. Just I want to actually give this question. Okay, just we must politicize the past by inventing, what happened in the past. But what about the right wing? What about the fascism? Actually, fascism also try to reinvent the past, right? Not conservatism, not any liberal democrat or something like that. It's a thing is that also Hitler and then fascist also in Asia we have a lot of such cases. Actually the Pan-Asianist also they began with kind of a revolutionary mind, but actually that kind of revolutionary spirit end up with this very the dangerous right-wing spirit is a very the tragic the consequence. So I think they would try to reinvent the past, like Alexander Dugin in Russia at the moment. You attacked him many times, but how can we actually put distinction between the the radical reinvention of past and then such very reactionary invention?
I don't think, no, that's my, if you want, this, at the same time, historically open, but also tragic view.
Yeah.
Let's take this example that you take. Fascism invents its own past. Yeah. We do it. But first, as I already said before, I don't like here the word invent, because it's not that the past really was something and then we are projecting back into it our inventions. But I referred here implicitly, as you probably know, to a very famous text, short but famous, which is, I'm sure, translated into Korean, because you translate everything there in Korea. Walter Benjamin thesis on history, where he says every revolution is not only a struggle for keep open, redeem our future, but also a struggle for redeeming our past.
Exactly.
So it's more dialectical. It's not whatever happened, and we reinterpret it. No, it's that what happened was open. For example, if there will be a new fascism, God forbid us, no, then Second World War, or for Japanese, their attack on China, will appear in a totally new way as the first honest attempt to bring order into the world, which was thwarted by, even more than by communism, by American false individualist capitalism, and so on and so on. So my point is that everybody, that's what I try to do. Yes, everybody is all the time rewriting the past. Also, let me give you a third example so that we don't have only the Far East Asia or Europe. In India, I spoke with friends there who told me, I think the greatest tragedy of India was, I think, do you know better when? Around the year 0, I think, because 500 or 400 before Buddhism came, and was for a couple of centuries predominant. And I think the historical defeat of Buddhism, which became again marginal, and Hinduism returned. This was the mega tragedy. There are even some of my, you remember we had him in Seoul, some very radical Indian friends who think that if you want to be really emancipatory in India today, you should not totally, but historically see in early Buddhism a chance of progress, and the greatest tragedy was the return of Hinduism. So this potential, in some sense, we don't simply project it into Buddhism. It was there. So I would just be a little bit ontologically stronger. You know, all past is, in this sense, invented. For example, even I will be critical of Europe here. when we speak about pre-Christian pagan world, we already retroactively read it through Christianity. And we are all the time doing this. And it's not just a bad thing. Look about patriarchy. My position is here, would you agree with it, Alex? My position is here paradoxically. On the one hand, I agree with, here I do agree with, radical feminists who claim cheap historicism is too simple, in the sense that you cannot say, okay, today we know it's unjust to have women in subordinated position, blah, blah, blah. But you cannot accuse people 1,000 years ago for acting like that, because at that time it was normal. No, I think it's not as simple as that. It's not that, oh, at that time, sorry guys, I didn't know that torturing the slave as raping women was wrong and so on. Of course, this was the predominant ideology. But if you read the past through our today's knowledge, if you read it carefully, you find many, many hidden examples, tendency of slave revolts. If slavery was so normal, where then did Spartacus come from? My God. Even in Islam, they had, friends told me about year 800-900, a big slavery revolt around the area of the area of today's Emirates and so on. So yes, we should be in some sense historicist, but not in this cheap sense that, oh, for that time this was okay. No, it was not okay. We have the right to see, project, if you want, injustices, and then not just project injustices into the past, but find traces of resistance, which were there from the very beginning. We should accept that slavery or women subordination was never normal. And I'm here, although people accuse me of all things possible, I'm here totally radically pro-feminist. I read a wonderful text by a, sorry, forgot her name, it's old, my senility and so on, but a wonderful text by a woman who even is not politically correct, blah, blah, but who went into the past and said that measured by today's standards of feminine freedom and consensual sex, are we aware that, like, I don't know how she came to this number, but it looks correct to me, around 80% at least of actual sex was in today's terms non-consensual, a form of rape. And I think we have the full right to say this. It's not simply a projection, Here things are very radical. You know what is my dream here? I will not speak, and don't be afraid, I will not speak endlessly. I just want to add a wonderful joke. The best, imagine how we will have to rewrite all history if intelligent aliens will really arrive onto our Earth. I think, what will be the result? Did you also find it on some CNN general news I read that some American high-level finance center for studies, there are different theories. There are no aliens, they're very rare, blah, blah, blah. But my favorite theory is that aliens are hyperactive, know how to travel faster than light, they inspect all the universe, and they visited Earth maybe 1,000, 2,000 years ago, and they simply considered us a stupid race, which is mostly destroying itself, and didn't consider us even interesting enough to to establish contact with. Admitted, this is maybe a correct, nice theory of why there are no aliens. There are, but we are like stupid ants there destroying ourselves. Who cares about such a stupid planet, you know? Let's try. I think this is a very healthy idea of trying to imagine not how it really was in ancient Greece or Genghis Khan, Mongolia, but in what sense we will appear stupid if humanity will survive to some more developed people 200 years from now. How utterly stupid we will appear. Take the Ukrainian war. One country is Ukraine, practically fully destroyed. We are from elementary pragmatic level. We are approaching catastrophe. We will all feel the falling standard of living. It will contribute to blah, blah, blah. For what? For a minimal gain. Now it looks not even that any side will gain. And I imagine an alien studying this war. And then he will write in Alien University a thick volume, like an extreme case of stupidity. How can the Earth civilization act so stupidly?
The story is better than actually the end of the world. I think Alien, story is better than end of the eschatology. These days a lot of we have an environmental ecological eschatology. I mean, human being gonna be extinct, and then this world will end, something like that. So and then that is a negative moment at which we can recognize humanity. So anyway, just
sorry. I just wanted to point out that Alenka Zupančič in her new book developed this nicely. How, already in her earlier text, her texts, I think she deserves death penalty for not organizing the English translation of her wonderful short book on the end. The title is simply, as in Hollywood, The End. What is our obsession with ending? How, although there is a real prospect of catastrophe, how investment libidinal into this are also very suspicious. It's a clear surplus enjoyment in it. How to, for example, one thing Fred Jameson, who pointed this out to me. Did you notice how recently, or maybe in your culture it's different, but in the popular Western culture, movies and so on, aren't all utopias practically now dystopias? I don't remember, do you remember any movie in the last half century?
Exactly.
They did some stupid things in Soviet Union, but that time, which would point a brighter future, which is the only case. It's very realistically written. Fred Jameson's good friend, Kim Stanley Robinson. He did a novel, a little bit boring, 500 pages, blah, blah. But I read her in an ecological, condensed way, like the idea is it takes place in our reality. Okay, 20 years from now, when there is a terrible heat wave in India, 30 million people die in one summer, everything collapses, more or less, and then the world somehow comes together. United Nations install a Ministry of Future, not in an Orwellian cynical sense, but with real authority. And then it's wonderful how Kim Stanley Robinson imagines future. We have them, we have some resistance, then we have, with all sympathy, they are described, radically left eco-terrorists who selectively blow up some polluting industry and so on. It's messy, but gradually we humanity succeed. Somehow we cope with it. This is correct me, any of you, if you know. This is the only, but written very realistically, you know. This is the only positive utopia that I know, which is not dystopian, no?
Yeah, we anyway, just this is kind of the digression. My friend I you know, the organizing some Zoom talk of Kim, actually the novelist, and then actually
he came there.
he doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't fly, so he doesn't wanna get on the airplane, so he cannot come to, you know, give talk in person. But actually, we're gonna organize some kind of Zoom talk sooner or later. Anyway, so I think, you know, I have lots of piles of question, but okay, just I will yield my actually right to, you know, question to my audience. I got actually the many questions from floor. All right, so I think
but this floor is purely virtual floor.
yeah,
no?
the virtual
Why don't
floor,
you introduce the questions, post in the Q&A board, introduce one by one?
No, but I think
Okay.
I think
Not
actually
too many.
we should give them who got, you know, the courage to you know, question in person first. So
Oh yeah, right.
Soros,
But what?
JD,
Don't speak about courage.
many three actually question from floor. I say, all right, just I will give them a right to talk. All right.
I
Okay.
like this expression. That's why I love you, Alex. You see,
This is
you
I
already
behavior as if
talked
I
about
got authority.
Utopia. You didn't say I will give them word or they have the right to talk. You said I will give them the right to
Yeah, I
talk.
follow. I'm
You know,
your
if you
student. I
give them the
follow
right
you.
to talk, you can also then take the right to talk from them. No, that's how we should talk. Okay, sorry.
Soros, is it well pronounced? Is Soros?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm afraid if I can.
Oh,
No,
Sorry, can you hear me? I wanna
I can
turn on
now.
my camera, but I guess
It's
I
okay.
cannot
It's okay.
do
Yeah.
that. I don't know why. First of all, I have to say hello to Slavoj, who is one of my favorite philosophers, and I'm obsessed with his work. But I know he doesn't like this. He likes like jokes and stuff, like if I say something rude, but I won't. But sorry, just kidding. Okay,
I'm
so
seriously, morally, ethically disappointed in you. Okay.
I know, and that's what I wanted. Thank you very much. So, so it's
Sorry,
such an
can I
honor,
ask
Professor.
you the first thing, a racist question, but I mean it in a non-racist way. I cannot identify you ethnically.
I'm from
okay, so
Iran.
I'm gonna be.
From?
Iran.
Oh my God, Iran, I really
Yeah.
like. And
Actually,
before you ask the question, we all, I hope you agree, we all would like to ask you a question which is bothering all of us. Will the regime recuperate, or are all these signs, you know, that even the wife of the sister of your supreme leader criticized him, or will this at least leave a serious crack in the this women's rebellion?
I have to say, I
Sorry.
Connection is gone.
No, but it's not.
No, actually, Soros.
Can you hear me now?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry.
I thought
First of all, I have to.
secret
This is a very, but these are very strange times here, because actually talking to you on this platform, I hope nobody hears it inside the regime.
Then let's change the topic. Sorry, I thought like this.
Yes, but I have to tell you. Sorry, can you see me now?
I can see you. Yeah,
now
yeah.
we can.
Now
yes.
finally.
Okay.
Good to see you.
The point is,
The Iranian
I don't know
secret
where this
police
is.
to identify you better allowed your image. Yes.
As you know, subjectivity is just a whole, not something concrete. But okay, if I have a picture, maybe. Sorry, but I don't know. We used to be so hopeful, but now it's deteriorating. This hope. Because of what maybe you were addressing in some indirect way, because of a lack of leadership or something like organization inside the people themselves. But I hope something comes up, maybe some event. But as I can tell you, times are very dangerous now for many of people we know are getting arrested and stuff. But we are always keeping up our hope. But the situation is not good, I have to tell you.
No, sorry, I will allow you the question like I'm a good guy like Alex, but I wanted to tell you something. You know what you keep in mind, a friend of mine, maybe it was even somebody, forgot his name, sent me a quote he found in Anton Chekhov, you know, the great classic Russian writer, who said, everybody can mobilize and do the right thing in extreme situations when there is catastrophe. The really difficult thing is when catastrophe or miserable daily life just drags on and on and on and on. And to go on, no, the problem is not extreme catastrophe. Then people mobilize, are ready to risk their lives. The problem is the everyday misery which just go on, and people despair. It's the same. My God, it's the same problem.
I don't want to be, to be like a doomsday guy, but it's not that bright, like right now. Maybe tomorrow something happens, but we are dealing with disappointment. We're dealing with, like, I don't know, some kind of depression on a national scale. People giving up because of the oppression. But I hope someday it will rise again.
Yeah, but nonetheless, I must tell you, this is not a rhetorical exaggeration. And I hope we all agree on this, that already the fact that it lasts as long as it lasts is some kind of a miracle. You know, I was more of a pessimist. I didn't, but the last thing now, this question, please don't even answer because it will, for serious, I think, take care. I will take care for your arrest on this question, which
that's what
we all in Europe are very worried about this alliance between Putin, Russia, and Iran. What's happening behind? I get the point why it is happening, but it's such a brutal, pragmatic pact. It's horrible.
You said it. I must say I don't have anything to add to that because what you said is basically the whole story. I mean, that's the doom I was talking about. And I have to tell you, one of the things that keeps people like me going is reading your work, specifically you, because we can connect with it. My question was kind of because I was raised in a Deleuzian and tradition, but I am getting more and more critical towards it. So you quote unquote, you are one of my enemies, but you are so deep and so full of life when you write. Even when on the points where we disagree, I just like reading and rereading your work because it helps us imagine something that maybe we couldn't. But I have to thank you because
thank me. I can thank you for your kindness in another way. Do you have my email?
I don't, but I would love to keep in touch.
No, what I mean is that as a special favor, just don't give it all around.
Of course I won't.
A new book on freedom, on freedom, the notion of freedom. I would love to send you, it will be out in a little bit less than a year. I would like to send you out the complete manuscript.
You cannot believe what a great honor that is.
Don't talk about honor.
I'm not being
what I am. No. All I'm trying is, you know what was my reaction when you had the Green Revolution some 5-10 years ago in Iran? That elections, Ahmadinejad won, but
I remember you gave a speech about that. I watched it on YouTube.
But then somebody told me that some conservative official Iranian newspapers claimed that I am paid by CIA, giving you opponent Iranians, blah, blah. And you know what was my temptation? I didn't do it because we live in a world where irony no longer works. I wanted to write a public letter to CIA. Listen, I did my job in Iran, showing disorder.
Yes.
Here is my bank account. When will I get money
When
from
will you
you?
pay me?
All right, Soros,
We totally
yeah.
screw it up.
No,
Maybe you deserve now 1 minute for the question.
Okay, I don't know. Maybe I had many questions. Just one of them.
Yeah.
Because
one is by one, please.
sorry.
So there are many.
Yes. Maybe just one question.
Just the one question, please.
Okay, yeah. Considering your conflict with the Deleuzian tradition, what is libido freed from authority or law? Is there a kind of a image or concept of a libido freed from negativity and law, not in the Hegelian sense, but in the sense you were just talking about, authority? Because as you mentioned in your work, most of the time fighting authority is just resulting in reproducing it in another way. But is there a way out? I'm really want to, I don't know, find an answer, and I'm reading
not
your work
satisfied. Yeah, by my answer, because my answer is no, there is no way out, and it's a good thing that there is no way out. I think that all this, first, I think that libido or sexuality as such is one big mess.
Yes.
We don't have any pure emancipatory libido, which then, because of power pressure or whatever, gets distorted. I think that power, also in the sense of paternal power, political power, is a wrong, but nonetheless understandable attempt to somehow control and regulate the mess of libido. I think that that's Freud's lesson, that sexuality is in itself profoundly confused and so on. You know who was here my teacher? Not so much Deleuze as, although, again, I have great appreciation for Deleuze, but you know that how already, for example, today all feminists and other people attack paternal authority, but all the honor goes to Horkheimer and Adorno. Already in mid-1930s, they warned that Hitler is not a paternal authority figure. Hitler is a post-patriarchal figure. Also, if you go to the other side, Stalin is not a patriarchal figure. It's an obscenity to call Stalin a father figure. So what I want to say is that one should be here very precise. Yes, against patriarchal authority. Just be careful that you don't get even something worse. Let's take the American example, Donald Trump. Whatever he is, sorry, he is not in any sense a paternal authority. But I would almost prefer
he's
to
like
have
the embodiment of the obscenity of the superego, maybe.
Yeah. So again, my answer would be that your question is crucial because we have to be very precise here about what do we mean by authority, the dangers of abolishing authority. No, I'm not a pessimist. There are some Lacanians, as you maybe know, who are cynical pessimists, who said, okay, the lesson today is if you abolish the good old paternal authority, you get obscene leaders, neo-fascism, and so on. So let's return to some form of paternal authority. No, it doesn't work. But nonetheless, I think it's too easy to renounce authority. The way I pointed out through that, yes, you can, logic. You know, we individuals alone, the way we perceive our individuality, we are in some sense not even egotist, but corrupted, perverted. We are not free. Here I agree with my friend Alain Badiou, who says that we need some outside authority to push us literally into freedom, to open up the way for freedom, the way towards freedom. I don't, that's my pessimism. I don't think that spontaneously we want to be free. I mean it seriously. Yes, to a point we want to be free, but at the same time, we want the appearance of freedom, but we want somebody nonetheless to tell us how to be free. You know, it's a mess.
I know.
It's a mess.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. For
Incidentally,
question.
to you, Slavoj said it. My email, Žižek, SZIZEK, @yahoo.com.
Actually, you.
Thank you very much.
Contact
thank you.
organizer. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So actually,
No,
the big thing is that
send me
you know,
an empty message like "fuck you" and you will get the manuscript. Okay, bye bye. Finished. You, Russell, who laughed so much, admitted that I am able to talk in a non-conventional. This is a nice term to use for my vulgarities. That I have a non-conventional, non-dogmatic, open approach.
Yeah. I wanna tell you, Shiraz, actually the Iran, what happened in Iran now at the moment, even though actually the situation is quite dark there, big news in Korea. You know, lots of young people in Korea actually, you know, support you know your protest, and then I think actually like April 3rd, you know, uprising. I think you know today's Iran, you know, would be returning, you know, in the future, you know, definitely in the Žižekian sense, you know, reinvented, hopefully. And then okay, just Ian.
Sorry. What very short. One crucial thing I want to add. What I admire in Iran, whenever I criticize for its false radicality, Western canceling LGBT and so on, I fully support their goals. And then they tell me, yeah, but that's the only thing there is. Give me another example. I tell them Iran, how women mobilized it and everybody there, men, knew that women are in the center of it. Nobody dares to do this old Marxist bullshit to say to women, okay, wait for the real revolution, then we will take care of your freedom and so on. No? Sorry. Yes?
Okay, next, you know, attendee, Ilhan? Yeah, Ilhan, yeah, sorry. Could you give the question? So, you know, please shorten down your question, you know,
and I will try to shorten my answers also, yeah?
Okay. Do you hear me?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. What is the option? Join as panelist or attendee?
Oh, gonna be my
But you already joined. You want
you already joined. You already joined.
Okay.
You turn
Because
on
it
the
just
camera.
kept asking me, that's why. Okay. Let's see. Okay. First of all, I would like to thank you. This is a great event, and thank you, Dr. Žižek. This is just like so thought-provoking. While I was listening, I just kept going back to one idea in my mind. Like most of the things that you said just reminded me Herbert Marcuse and his book, One-Dimensional Society.
Yeah.
I was wondering, what is your take on that? Because, like, for example, in this neoliberal order context, like a lot of things that you mentioned just reminded me that, like, for example, false needs or one-dimensionality and repressive tolerance. And to me, I feel like we are going through a new form of one-dimensionality. And with the authority, with our populist life and other things. I'm wondering what your take on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My answer will unfortunately disappoint you. First, this is the great topic, I know, But you know what's my problem with Marcuse? You didn't mention one book which for me condenses all that is problematic for me in Marcuse, Eros and Civilization. I cannot buy that idea of some pre-patriarchal, or whatever you call it, sex, which is originally perverse, plural, freedom, and so on. Although Marcuse, I know he's not an idiot. He knows, he takes into account how there is a self-sabotaging dimension in sexuality. That obstacle is not just exterior. Another thing for Marcuse, the problem of one-dimensional, his classical work, one-dimensional society is that, like his vision was a little bit for me, I simplified, I know, like not Aldous Huxley, what's his Utopia, not 1984, but his one, Happy New
Brave New World.
Brave New World.
Brave New World, you know, a falsely perfect one-dimensional society. Well, I don't think we are moving in that direction. I think, on the contrary, we are witnessing now growing inner tensions and explosions. Like the cultural war we are in today is, for me, the expression of a deep-cut antagonism precisely between the two sides of contemporary global capitalism. Plus, I think that I agree here with some of my friends, like from Jody Dean to Yanis Varoufakis, that neoliberal capitalism is already disappearing. Sorry, but figures like Bill Gates and the mega idiot Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and so on, they are already pushing liberalism to a certain edge. I don't like the term that some people proposed, neo-feudalism, but nonetheless, capitalism is no longer the neoliberal capitalism that it was. Something very strange is happening. On the one hand, the traditional working class is not disappearing, but is no longer central. Just ask yourself who is the main emancipatory force today. Isn't it that for millions of migrants and contract workers and so on, to be a classical exploited proletarian? Like, okay, you are not rich, but you have saved daily life, some kind of insurance and so on, is almost a privilege today. We have immigrants, we have permanently unemployed, we have precarious workers. We have a very important thing that my friend from Latin America drew my attention to. We have what some of my friends from Denmark call ecological proletarians, already tens of millions, people who are not exploited in any direct way. Big companies, because of mining, fracking, and so on, are just simply destroying their environment. It is happening massively in Canada. All this oil fracking is happening, almost all of it, on Inuit and Native Americans' land. So there is no direct, in Ecuador, the situation is horrible. So you know what I mean? I don't think also Marcuse knew about this complexity already. But I'm one step more pessimist than Marcuse. I think that from today's perspective, his idea of one-dimensional society is almost too optimistic. It's not just this empty consumerist world, blah, blah, blah. We are entering a world all the time at the edge of a civil war, of an explosion, and so on and so on. That's my problem. Although I must say, I know pretty well Marcuse. For example, this is a heroic act. You know that Marcuse was the only one of all Frankfurt School who tried to confront seriously Stalinism. He wrote his book, Soviet Marxism, where he doesn't really succeed providing theory of it, but somehow to account all others, although they were anti-communist. Like, read all of Habermas. You would never have guessed that there was still recently also East Germany socialism there. So they totally ignore this mega failure of really existing socialism in the 20th century and so on. So yes, return to Marcuse, but in a different way. Marcuse couldn't, neither could I. You know, he's predict this. He is part of that era where people thought that the main problem is everyday alienation. We live in false welfare, but our lives are automatized, stupid, consumerist, and so on and so on. Well, to be cynical, many ordinary people who are now homeless and so on, poor, would say, and I sympathize with them, my God, I will quite like to be a little bit of an alienated consumerist. Nothing against that, you know. Sorry, I don't want to.
Thank you, Ilhan. And then we actually invite, another the audience.
Idiot, to use your term, because we are all idiots.
Okay.
You are afraid here.
Okay.
You see how he wants to get
I think you met her, in Korea.
Hello.
Do you remember her?
I don't. I had several occasions to see you in different lectures, but this is probably my first time speaking to you personally. So thank you so much for the great lecture, and this is my great pleasure because
before I go on talking with you, a small obscenity. Jung. I think you are not in any way related with Carl Gustav Jung.
That's right. A lot of my Western friends, I think, mistook me. It's Jung, but right. But the name already.
We can go on talking.
As a surname, I probably was better.
Because this is my great pleasure, because I think if there is one who fits for me, the title of the master, it's you, because I think if without you that I read back in the undergrad, I would have been just like maybe liberal, Foucauldian, Derridian, probably by this time. So you kind of saved me from that sort of historicist.
But you know, no. I'm now not making an ironic self-criticism, but a serious one. You know, often I get seduced into my sarcasms and so on, so that sometimes a good, tasteless joke matters to me more than making a great point to mobilize people and so on. You know.
But your jokes are great. Yeah. So I have a question. So because for several years, I think you have published maybe some columns about the similar topics about master and the sort of defending the necessity of master. And I really appreciate you and also Alain Badiou for bringing back so-called dirty words like master or even discipline. I think somewhere, Badiou had a short text on discipline, the sort of defending the idea of discipline. And just I always wanted to ask this question about master to you, because in other texts, I think I remember like Less Than Nothing. On the other hand, you defend this idea of Christian, you often call yourself Christian atheist, right? Sort of Christian, Christian atheistic communism. So you when you describe the whole community of believers under the Holy Ghost or Holy Spirit, right? You sort of read it as a kind of sort of alternative political community, sort of, form of communism even. So in that sense, you seem to defend there sort of this radical equality, right? Community of believers under Holy Ghost without maybe master, without sort of this figure of necessarily maybe authority. But then on the other hand, you talk about the necessity of master and, in some other writings. So I'm wondering whether you can elaborate on those points, right? How we should
It's
maybe...
a very nasty question. By this, I mean very good question, you know, because good questions are by definition nasty questions. Did you notice that in my late last year two texts where I defend communism,
Right.
I usually add the word war communism. And this is a genuine pessimist insight.
Right.
Just try to think, for example, about possible global warming ecological crisis. You cannot resolve it at this level of local cooperatives and so on. There will have to be a kind of a, not global master, but a kind of a more obligatory international cooperation. The example, maybe some of you will know it, that I used is my good friend, I mentioned him, Dupuy, Jean-Pierre Dupuy, was sent to Fukushima immediately after it happened, a special delegation of European Union, specialist for catastrophes, and he spoke with some high-level Japanese politicians, and they told him that, you know, that for one day, they were in such a panic, the Japanese authorities, that they thought they will have to evacuate 30, 40 million people, the whole Tokyo area, and so on. Now, in a relatively well coordinated international society, this would be a big problem, but not a mega problem. Like Russia has large, Russia can settle without any problems in Eastern Siberia, 100 million people and so on. But with today's lack of cooperation, what would have happened? Where would these people go? Or the problems with food, or my favorite example, you must know it. Remember last summer, not this one, 1.5 years ago. You remember that crazy moment when in Vancouver, Seattle area, northwest of United States, southwest of Canada, for 2 weeks, temperatures were almost like a small degree less than 50 degrees Celsius. Seattle was more warm than Emirates, than Kuwait.
Right.
Now, this is my argument against this local democracy anarchists. Whatever you say against them, at the local level, they were not doing so bad. These were relatively well ecologically regulated parts of the world. And it's clear that something exploded there, which is part of a much larger disorder of how air circulates in the whole northern hemisphere. So you cannot even imagine solving it. At the same time, I try not to be a total idiot, and I try to, I'm well aware of that the solution is not some worldwide government. It would have to be centralized, and this would have brought, I think, incredible new options of corruption, you know, because, so I'm not advocating that, but forms of more radical global cooperation, where again, you cannot do without some kind of master figures. And that's also the lesson. Look at South Africa. Although he made a compromise at the end, but they needed somebody like Mandela. And I never had an extra high opinion on him personally. Quite many things that he was saying were, to be brutal, were platitudes and so on. But he embodied a certain hope. Mandela meant, yes, we can do it, and so on. So again, now my communism is a little bit more, okay, I will describe you honestly. You are now my Stalinist master, and I will do self-criticism. No, I will say that up till some 5-10 years ago, you know, if we refer to Lacanian 4 discourses, master, hysteric, university, analyst. I was tempted to historicize them in the sense that master's discourse was the traditional pre-modern society. Then in capitalism, it splits into hysteria and university. University is the expert knowledge of state apparatus. Hysteria is this capitalist permanent, I want more wealth, whatever. And then I was tempted to say that some kind of, that the task of more radical left is to find some kind of equivalent of the analyst's discourse. I unfortunately no longer believe in that. I agree, but that's the reason why I disagree with him, with Miller, that if you try to impose on political discourse the psychoanalytic view, you end up in a kind of cynicism. I see through you, you are always victim of fantasies, and I, as an analyst, I know better, and so on. You have to risk the step towards a master. I know I didn't fully answer your question. Now, if you permit,
that's a great answer, because I remember that you addressed a similar kind of question in different ways when you talk about, like, in reference to Kant and sort of the whole, how we are born with some unruliness, even at the personal level. We need the figure of the master, and then. So I think, it's aligned with it. It's
what's so interesting? With my totalitarian nature, I was spontaneously all the time on Hegel's side. Hegel, his philosophy of history ends up with necessity of war against Kant. But now, whatever you say with nuclear weapons all around and so on, there is a new urgency in Kant's idea of eternal peace, of global peace. It's not that people are any better, but simply, can we afford another war? Alain Badiou, with whom I have many problems, political, said something very nice. He said, till now, we could abide with Lenin's formula. No problem if there is a war, because war brings revolution. That's why that's what Lenin expected and got it from the First World War. But then, but you said, but today, maybe some kind of revolution will be the only thing to prevent a global war, my God.
Slavoj, time too much passed, so Master shorten
I'm a little bit tired with you, but
long queue.
You, Young,
yes.
What happened a minute before, where instead of your live face, we got a kind of idealized pin-up girl photo of you.
Yeah, actually, that is,
that is the ontological
reality and the
I
real.
Put it like this. You are nice enough in reality. You don't need to do that.
All right, thank you for a good question.
You see, that's why I like Alex. When he thinks I go too far, he quickly goes to cut you. Thank you, yeah, so on and so on.
That's my style. I must cut. Okay. All right. The next, actually, the audience. Actually, I think we have 10 minutes to go. So I think please,
but can we maybe? I will try to answer them. I'm really getting a little bit tired, like a dog.
So from South Korea, some attendants want to talk.
Some local idiot is asking the next question.
정현?
So let's do that one more. Okay.
Okay, I think Welby. Where is it? Welby is gone.
Should be a panel right now.
Okay.
She's there.
No.
Welby.
Is she Korean?
No.
Sorry, I'm confused. I don't want to make the mistake. I see the image now. Don't kill me. It's a boy or a girl or.
Girl. 정현. Yeah, she's my student. And then Welby first. Welby first.
Patriarchal society where all nice ladies are somehow your students. So.
No, actually, my student is a big fan of you. Anyway, Welby, are you there?
I see the red
There's
line over
Yeah, I
microphone.
think it doesn't work. Yeah, no
So
connection.
first.
Okay, okay, where are we?
Who is the real Welby?
Can you
Is
hear
it
me?
him?
Yeah,
Okay. Hello. Yes. It is an
hello.
Hi.
honor to meet you. It's an honor to meet you. I
Yeah,
honor to meet
because of
meet you.
tight, yeah, because of tidy time. So just to, shorten down your answer, question and answer as well.
Okay. 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 So I definitely agree with a lot of what you said. They said, especially with the cannibalistic, obscene ego, and all this stuff too. Okay, I have a lot of questions, but since we don't have, it seems like we don't have much time. One of my main question is the is the nature of the the obscene ego and the emergence of these capitalistic tendencies. Is it an sort of inevitable result? It's sort of an inevitable result of the particular collapse of society, or is it a particular contradictory dialectic based on a failure to, as you say, bring in a more servant-minded master, if that makes sense.
Okay.
It makes sense. I just don't see well, maybe I didn't quite understand you. Where is the big contradiction? Because first, it's obvious that it's something new in the sense that, of course, all the time, even those regimes, capitalists, who pretended to be most democratic, open, liberal, had their dark side. That's clear. But I think that today, this dark side is becoming obvious. I mean, open. And this is a horrible thing because it's even cutting off the space of its critique. For example, if you were to approach Trump, but what you are doing, he would have said something like first, oh, you think only I was doing it? Do you think that all others, Kennedy and so on, were not doing it in a similar way? And I think that nonetheless, I'll put it like this way. It's very problematic what I'm saying now, but I will insist on it. I am a pessimist in the sense that I think it's better hypocrisy than open obscenity. Because hypocrisy sometimes works in the sense that when you have a hypocritical politician who lies, no, we are not torturing. You can, not personally, they are brutal cynics, but in the public space, you can at least embarrass him, maybe achieve some changes and so on. So I think that it is a historical phenomenon, which is basically, it is ultimately a sign of exploding inner ideological, but not only ideological, also economical antagonisms of global capitalism. To put it very simply, global capitalism is more and more compelled to violate its own rules. You know, it cannot abide. Till now, it worked like officially. You followed certain legal rules. Okay, you cheated very discreetly, but not openly. Now, capitalism is, again, cannibalizing itself, its own legal system. And I find this dangerous, not because I have any illusions about capitalism, but I think that one option, one possible future is that capitalism will remain, but without even its very limited, but nonetheless official anti-racist and so on rhetoric. You know, We will get simply a brutal, openly racist capitalism and the model we already have. This is what put me in such a bad mood. I find it horrible. You remember, sorry, I repeat my old example. Do you remember when Taliban took over in Afghanistan? They immediately made a deal with China, or China offered them a deal, which is we collaborate economically, we don't mess with your politics, your radical Islamism, but you don't mess with what we are doing with Uyghurs and so on. What I am afraid is that, my God, this type of totally brutal, cynical order will predominate and present itself as new multiculturalism. You see, no culture is dominant, which means everybody is free to do all the horrible things in its own country. So here I am, unfortunately, a pessimist. I think, again, that it's a sad sign, this obscene master and so on, that capitalism can no longer afford to respect its own appearances of legality and so on. It's very sad, dangerous also.
Yeah.
Can we maybe slowly stop before I drop that?
Yeah. I
Fuck
think
you, yeah. What
that's
did
the
you?
question.
Yeah.
So Jonghyun is another audience here. Are you there, Jonghyun?
Hear my voice?
Yeah, could you hear?
I hear the voice.
Okay.
I see now yellow. It looks
What's the
like an
yellow one?
abstract painting. Yeah. I see you now. Yes.
Okay, hello. It was very interesting lecture, and it's very honored to take your lecture. So, well, I just wondered that, as I know you have very critical view of capitalism, right?
Yeah,
So,
but sorry, first finish the question. Okay.
yeah. So then, how you look at the Jeju April 3rd incident from this, well, your point of view? I've been thinking about the offspring from the global Cold War trend, and what do you think how this Cold War process relate to capitalism? I wonder that the Cold War is just a result of ideological confrontation, and I have never been associated with capitalism to this Cold War and capitalism. So I just wonder, do you think this is associated with capitalism? And then I also wonder that, well, in modern Korean history, there has been an ideological misunderstanding in very negative point of view regarding the Jeju offspring for quite a long time. So I'd like to hear your views on how we should look at the 350 insurgents. I mean the so-called rebellions. And how many Koreans think and judge them? Are they just normal people, or are they really bad rebellions? And in Korea, that kind of problem is just still very problematic, and it's kind of still taboo to speak out. So I just hear your point of view. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, I must say that I simply, it's my European limitation. I don't feel qualified enough to say a lot about Korean history and so on. I know things about it, and I have some kind of a national close identification with Korea. You know what? Why? Because it's similar in some sense to my own country, Slovenia. You survived miraculously between three biggest, stronger neighbors: China, Russia, Japan, not to mention then America and so on. But this miracle that you survived, maybe one of the reasons is that I like there. Alex, correct me here. It's not, I am an atheist, I'm not a Christian. I'm not saying this is a priori a good thing. But it is that in Korea, you don't have clearly one predominant religion, no? A little bit more than half of Christian, but they are split into Catholics and Baptists and all that stuff. Maybe that is good. So again, what will mean all these rebellions? You know, I can only repeat my favorite story about, you must know it, about Chu Enlai, the second man after Mao in China. You know this story, it's a wonderful one. It's true, I checked it up. When in 1953, he was in Geneva for the negotiations to end the Korean War, some French journalist asked him, what does he think about French Revolution, 1789? And you know, it was Chu Enlai's answer. It's not even 200 years ago. It's too early to say what was the French Revolution, you know. That's what I meant by reinterpreting the past and so on. Because many, even the predominant liberal and right interpretation of the fall of communism, 1789, was that it's exactly 200 years after the French Revolution. So it's the end of that period. That by the fall of communism, the tradition of French Revolution is out. No, I hope this is not true. Second thing, when you speak about capitalism and so on, I'm here an Orthodox, still here, remain an Orthodox Marxist. What does it mean? It means that I don't dismiss capitalism as just something horrible, the great. No, Marx was all the time aware of this. Capitalism is an incredibly productive system, which, if left free, can lead to universal destruction. But at the same time, it, in some sense, created conditions for freedom. Never remember that all the notions we usually use to criticize capitalism, racism, violation of human rights, these were notions that emerged out of capitalist ideology. Of course, there was a contradiction. But so I think that, now I will say something horrible, but this was Marx's position. The only way out of capitalism is through capitalism. I don't think we can bypass it, and that's the dream of some of my Latino American friends. One of them even mentioned there is a tribe deep in Amazonian forest, which he claims has some unique organization with which we can avoid modern antagonisms. I don't believe in this. I am a Marxist here. No freedom without passing through capitalism. What you said about Cold War, my position is extremely naive here. On the one hand, I would say that my basic position, not even on the one hand, is that today Cold War is not simply repeating itself in the sense that we are back in the Cold War. Remember that if you apply any, let's call them objective economic measures, China and Russia, today's China and Russia, are even more capitalist than, for example, Sweden, Finland, France. Look at social inequality, gap between rich and poor, and so on and so on. So I think that while the Cold War of the 50s was the war between, to put it vaguely, socialism and that type of socialism and that type of capitalism, today's Cold War is, apart from some freakish phenomena like Cuba, North Korea, whatever, it is a Cold War inherent to modern global capitalism. Two types of global capitalism. Purely Western, liberal, where you combine capitalism with LGBT, blah, blah, family disappears, they agree with all that, and this neo-fascist, neo-conservative capitalism, where the point is they want to have capitalism, but without succumbing to its socially disintegrating tendencies. Again, the book, I don't know, that I read, I got a pirate copy, very intelligent guy, although I don't agree with him. He is now the third person in China, Wang Huning, who wrote 30 years ago a book, America Against America, and admired the country, but said, how could we in China have such a fast economic development without social chaos, disintegration, and so on? So he even designates himself as a neoconservative. So you see, today's Cold War, again, if we still want to be some kind of authentic left, we should avoid the blackmail of, nonetheless, China, Russia are somehow closer to socialism or whatever. No, today's Cold War is an immanent antagonism of today's global capitalism. Sorry, now I'm getting out. Sorry, what's happening with you, Suya on? Now your glasses disappeared. What is happening there with you? Okay. Now we are back to normal. Okay.
I think
you can imagine now, based on my tasteless remarks, why a couple of times my talks in the United States were already interrupted because of my politically incorrect statements and so on, Now I'm so terrorized. People always warn me, please don't mention gay people, don't mention feminism, don't mention races, and so on.
All right, so I think actually we already passed the 2 hours already passed. So
yeah,
many question, but we cannot, the answer to all question. And but actually, William,
because as you know, 2 hours is my physical limit in city time.
William's, I think William question already, in my opinion, answered by actually the previous the answer and the Slavoj talk, and then Leonardo da Silva also is redeeming. Is not actually you can find it, his answer, already. And then Olia Timothy, if actually my pronunciation correct, is maybe from Russia. I think this question might be also important, and I read it. Why the returning figure of master is often so clowny or even tricky in comparison to fearsome, serious figure of the master of the past. So
me and Alenka Zubancic tried to answer this question. Alenka has the most intelligent answer, not to diminish his actual power, but to strengthen it. It's a wonderful strategy of playing a clown, and then people laugh at you and so on, but all actual power remains with you. Like many French people told me, I knew people who knew people who at the end were close to Trump. And they told me Trump knew this. Whenever he did some crucial economic measures, like you know, less money for universities, healthcare, whatever, less rights for workers. He did some clownish scandal, you know, to distract attention. No, this is, again, I don't have a direct good answer, but what I think that far from diminishing the authority of the master, this clownish aspect is, you know, that's the paradox, makes him stronger in what sense? I would like to link this to another phenomenon that I like. Did you notice how today nobody wants to be called master, director, chief, or whatever? The most popular term is coordinator. You know, like, no, I'm not really, I'm just a coordinator. You get even more power. Why? Because by posing as coordinator, you, like, if I'm a master, you, Alex, can attack me. If I'm a coordinator and you attack me, I say, but why are you talking like this? We are equal. I'm just coordinating and so on. You know, it's a very tricky and paradoxical thing.
Okay, I think we must stop here. I think you seem a little bit tired now.
I'm tired from the moment. I'm tired for 73 years. For 73 years.
We must let him go.
Listen,
So,
what is
otherwise,
your time now?
you know.
Me, it's 8 hours. It's not midnight. What is with you? 10 in the morning.
Me, actually, the early morning is 2 a.m. Korea. So
yeah, because it's more with you, of course. 6 hours, 8 hours more. Yeah. So what will you do now? Go back to sleep again? No? Or what? Some hardcore pornography or what? What will you do?
yeah, it's a good question. Yeah.
Now you know why I asked you this question. So that you will say, okay, we run out of time and so on.
Yeah, but for me, pornography is too boring. You know, that's why I don't watch pornography.
I totally agree with you. Okay, I don't have time to give you the whole theory of it, but do you understand how people can get excited by pornography? Because it's so obviously staged, boring. People are bored who act there, you know. And so on, it's my idea, but maybe there are some idiots, is that if you are nymphomaniac, too much obsessed by sex, you would be obliged, like in that movie Clockwork Orange, to watch hardcore pornography for 10 hours per day. If this doesn't desexualize you, then why don't understand anything, you know?
Okay,
thanks to all of you,
very much.
Russell, special thanks to you. I am now celebrating you as the only guy who understands me because I enjoyed so much cherry coke with you.
Do you want to add some comments?
Thank you, Russell.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Russell. Thank you all.
Oh no, I was happy to be here. And to see
Thank you very much. And
Alex.
If there will not be a global war, I would love to visit your country again. And just on condition that I live in a most civilized part of Seoul. How do I forget the name? What?
More civilized at the moment. So please, actually, all
the more
people
civilized is one
welcome
part of. How do you call it that where we had the Gong in the south?
Yeah, it's Jongno, the Gwanghamun. You mean the big bookstore? Yeah, we have always
bookstore. Not an intellectual. That part.
Gangnam area, Gangnam Street, Gangnam.
Gangnam is my part. Forget about intellectuals and so on. Gangnam, I like Gangnam. You know.
Yeah.
All the small restaurants there and so on. It's my favorite part of Seoul. You know, I leave to you all the fucking culture there in the north and so on. Give me Gangnam. You know?
Okay, of course.
Thanks very much. Keep in touch.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.